Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Junk Be Gone, Phoenix Conversions.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Welcome into the Sports Source. Good Sunday morning to you, and also good Happy Father's Day to you. Certainly wish a Happy Father's Day to all the dads watching, including my own. Thanks for all you've done for me and all you've done for your sons and daughters out there. We have a packed show, and there's a lot of news going on this week regarding Tennessee, and we've got some interesting angles to cover. Let's go ahead and show you what that's going to be. First of all, the latest on the football team, just the actual roster moves and that kind of stuff we'll discuss. COVID has bounced back in a big way against sports teams and sports leagues this week, including Tennessee with its first positive test regarding basketball. Pruitt and Tennessee engaging in a lot of social change. He said he was going to make some cultural moves, and he is doing that as an advocate. We'll discuss. In-depth UT recruiting update with Ryan Callahan. One of our own will be talking, hopefully joining us by phone to discuss the battle he's going with right now. He's got COVID. We've got one of the guys on the show, longtime member of the show, is battling it. We'll talk to him at about noon. And then VFL's up for the College Football Hall of Fame. We'll discuss, if we only had one vote, who gets it out of the three that are up for it. We'll discuss all that and more. First segment of our show is brought to you by Junk Be Gone, locally owned, family owned. Junk Be Gone is true East Tennessee, right down to the logo, which was designed inside the family. Rent a dumpster, have them do demolition work for you, have them just carry out junk for you, have them handle your company or your personal shredding. They do it all. Junk Be Gone. Visit them at junkbegone.biz to learn more. I can certainly attest to how good their business is. I use them each and every year. All right, let's get started with today's show. I want to welcome in Jimmy Himes from WNML AM and FM. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Right down there from The Athletic, Mr. David Oven. David, thank you for joining us. We'll just start with the Tennessee football team. First of all, as we mentioned last week, the Vols are over the scholarship limit. That may have played a role in the fact that, as we also discussed last week, Tim Jordan's spot on the team. I think in another year, you look at the arrest, and maybe the coaches have more information than we do, but you look at that, and that looked more like a 2-game suspension and you're welcome back to the team type thing to me. Instead, he was indeed dismissed this week, as we talked about last week. Thoughts on Tim Jordan being dismissed from the team? Do you think that had anything to do with the roster numbers?
I remember when he was arrested, one of our conversations was, this isn't a good time to be in trouble because of the scholarship limitations. A couple of years ago, Kenneth George got in trouble, and he didn't. Now, it was different. All cases are different. I get that. But he was still on the team. I can't dismiss the possibility that Tennessee being over the scholarship limit and they're looking for ways to find to cut the roster down. I can't look past the thought that could have contributed to Jordan's dismissal.
Yeah, and I think for what it's worth, I mean, the gun charge is a felony in the state of Florida. I think that's worth mentioning as well. But I was a little surprised because, from what I understand, I don't think Pruitt has a specific no guns rule. But, if you're a concealed carry and you don't have a permit for that, that's a pretty serious offense in Florida. So, yeah, I was a little surprised because when you saw it, it didn't seem like it was that big of a deal. But, yeah, I think there's a lot of outside factors that might have come into play there. And just not how I saw that situation going down.
Thins out the running back room. Mm-hmm. You've got Chandler, you've got Gray, and then you're going to have a new guy there. Unless, of course, you bring back Jeremy Banks and slide him back into running back. He's gone running back, linebacker. But your thoughts on what's going to happen there at the running back spot in terms of that third slot in the rotation?
Might be a freshman.
Yeah, they'd love to have had spring to figure that out. You got to find a third. Yeah. You absolutely can't with one. You probably can't with two. 3 is even a little bit thin, but you talk about it's going to be down to one of those freshmen. Jabari Small, Laneith Whitehead, T. Hodge in there. One of those guys is going to have to emerge and probably get 40, 50 carries next year.
I didn't see enough out of Carlin Fields and me to make me think he could be part of that. He's played running back, defensive back to running back. He actually had a decent yards per carry average with a minimum number of carries, but I think the fact that you're willing to move him around suggests that you're probably thinking he might not be the third guy. But it's going to be Gray and Chandler, and I think they'll get a bunch of carries this season, but behind what I think is going to be a heck of an offensive line.
Yeah. A.J. Artis, no surprise here. He was formally promoted this week. He is now, the title is Director of Football Performance. Some would know that in the old days as strength and conditioning. But he replaces Craig Fitzgerald, who of course went to the New York Giants. It's a tough year to get a promotion into a new position because everything is up in the air and so bizarre this year for Mr. Artis. On the other side, though, from a Tennessee perspective, with everything that's going nuts, makes a lot of sense to keep it in-house, which is why everybody expected that.
Yeah, and he's a young guy now. Was he 26, I think it is? He was 2 years at Duke under David Cutcliffe, 2 years here. He's a former football player. I would say, obviously, in the 2 years he was here, he made an impact, not just on the football players, but on the staff, on Pruitt as well. And so, but I'm not surprised it was going to be promoted from within. We'd kind of heard that for a while.
Yeah, I think, it probably doesn't hurt as well that he's making like $400,000 less than Fitzgerald.
Right.
Fitzgerald's really highly paid. But yeah, I mean, the day Fitzgerald left, you started hearing, I think AJ is going to get this job. I think AJ is going to get this job. And 3 months later, here we are. So I think that continuity in a situation like this helped. And I think, you heard really good things about how he and the rest of the staff were helping when guys were remote and dealing with all this, spread about the country. So I think that plays into it as well, that they handled a really difficult, sort of unprecedented situation in a good way.
The players continue to come back at UT. The main news this week, it seems, though, if you're talking about how guys are looking and what they're doing, is the fact that Jimmy Holiday, the dual threat quarterback, who everyone assumed would be a wide receiver at some point, but they had promised a shot at quarterback, he's already moved to receiver, it looks like. So thoughts on that process speeding up a little. The fact that there was no spring practice obviously had some effect on it.
That really surprised me, and I'll tell you why. Because I had a conversation with Jeremy Pruitt about what he was going to do with Holiday, and he went to great lengths to talk about needing a quarterback who was athletic, needing a quarterback with mobility, needing a quarterback that can make plays when it's 3rd and 10 and everything breaks down, and a guy that can run. I thought, okay, and I kind of bought into that, and now you don't even have spring ball, you don't even have a practice, and you're moving him. So from that perspective, I was surprised.
I think you might still see him have a package,
Right.
Running package, but ultimately if you're him and you're looking around, there's not opportunity at quarterback. You have Garantano probably coming in there. You have, 6 guys in the room, and all of those guys have more experience than you do, save for, I guess, Harrison Bailey, but even him, sort of looked at as this, savior figure in a lot of ways, or the future of their position. So, yeah, I can't say that I'm super shocked, but you look at the receiver room, there's opportunity everywhere. A lot of guys are going to get a lot of playing time, and if you can stand out there, you can make a difference there in year one.
And that's a really good receiving core
Yeah.
they brought in. They've got some good-looking receivers, young receivers.
But from his perspective, though, none of them have any more of a leg up than he does. So
That's true.
That's
Yeah.
good. All right, when we come back, in case you hadn't heard, COVID roared back into the sports scene this week. What does that do? And UT has a basketball player with it. We'll discuss that. But what does that do for? We went from, boy, I don't see how it comes back, to, yeah, it's going to be fine, to biting our nails again. Where are we? Where's the group? We got 2 more guys to introduce later in the show. Much more to come here on the Sports Source. Come on back.